Forum. Forum in its endeavor is conducting various seminars to help member brokers to make their operations and compliance an easy matter. And in this pursuit, often we have done seminars on PMLA, and today we have two distinguished speakers from FIU IIT itself, the premier agency looking after this PMLA subject. To give a brief introduction of Ms. Deepika Mittal, Indian Revenue Service IRS Income Tax of 1994 batch, joined FIU IIT in March 2013. She is a postgraduate from Delhi University and also has graduated in law from the same university. After joining IRS, besides assessment, she was involved in framing taxation policies and legislations, computerization in the income tax department. She also served in the Central Board of Direct Taxes as Under Secretary in Tax Planning and Legislation from 2002 to 2004. She was also involved in setting up tax information network of the Income Tax Department and computerization of the TDS function. She has also worked as Assistant Director General in the Unique Identification Authority of India before joining FIU IIT. With this, I really welcome you, ma'am, on the dais. Today we have another speaker from FIU IIT, Shri Chaitanya Shukla, an officer of Post and Telegraph BW Electrical Service of 1998 batch. He has joined FIU IIT in March 2012. He is having a Bachelor's of Engineering from Madhav Institute of Technology and Science, Gwalior, and postgraduate in Management MBA from Indian Institute of Management IIM Lucknow with specialization in Finance and Marketing. Prior to joining Government of India, he worked with Gloplast Limited at Kolkata. After joining the Department of Telecom, he worked with both managerial and technical capacities and handled projects and maintenance work of electromechanical services. He brings to FIU IIT experience in project management, data analysis and business analysis. With this humble introduction, I also request Shri Chaitanya to please grace the dais. Last but not the least, we have Shri Sagar Khanna, who has been our knowledge partner from Practice, who has been our knowledge partner as well as sponsor for this event. He has always been gracious to support BSc Brokers Forum in conducting his knowledge endeavors. Sagar Khanna is a certified anti-money laundering specialist associated with capital markets for more than 14 years. He has helped various large broking houses to implement AML solutions over the last 6 years. He is a director in TCS Consultancy Private Limited, which is offering AML solution named Practice. I also request Shri Khanna to please grace the dais. Last but not the least, our own Shri Uttam Bagri, our Secretary of BSc Brokers Forum and the pillar of Forum and all activities. So I request him also to please come on the dais. Not taking much time between you and the audience, I would request the speakers to start with their presentation.
My friends, just to start, I'm surprised इतने सारे सेमिनार करने के बाद भी अभी तक PMLA के सवाल लोगों के मन में है. So a lot of us here. We have had lots of seminars and understanding of the subject of PMLA. We've been thankful to FIU. They have gone out of the way to explain us the various requirements of law, from STR filing to any other queries that we have. We've had camps on the subject. I'm sure those who attended it enjoyed. Somebody who attended a camp itself has come here. I would be surprised. But having done so many seminars, probably this will be one of the there won't be many on this subject in the news which I think in Mumbai. So I hope please raise any query that you have or any issue that you would like to raise. We'll have a session for approximately an hour and then Q&A where you can raise a specific query. Sagar, would you like to say something as an introduction to PMLA, please?
Good evening, friends. As always, it's been a pleasure to be here. I thank Forum for giving us this opportunity. Friends, I'll not take much time, just a couple of minutes. I'm glad that FIU has agreed and they are here to help us. I would only like to talk about a couple of things that we come across very regularly during implementation. What I've seen is many times when we meet the senior management, they are not aware about what all things are needed to be done. While you are working at the ground level, I think you should try to remove some time and sit down with your senior management and key down that these are the areas that need so much attention and try to create some awareness with the management. What we've seen is that the management isn't really aware about all the responsibilities, and that's why the importance to STR filing and monitoring is not there. So I think it's about creating awareness. So maybe if you take down some key pointers today from this session, you go back tomorrow, ask for some time with the management, make a small presentation of 2-3 slides, and try to make them aware in terms of what is the expectation, and also without having a fear. If you think that it's not well implemented in your own organization, please bring it to the light of the senior management. Many times we sit with them and they're like, everything is looking very nice, because you don't have the courage to go up and say. So I say that yes, there could be some immediate negative reactions, but in the long term, it will help you do your responsibility and protect the organization and the country. So with this, I think I'll end my session. Thank you very much. Thank you.
स्लाइड चालू करेंगे तो वो करते रहता हूँ कैसे।
Good evening.
Slide.
This is my presentation overview. So we will be covering STR reporting in general and reporting to the FIU in particular. First, give you an overview of FinNet, what this FinNet is, because FinNet is the one which you will use for filing the reports. Registration process will be explained. I hope everyone is registered here, or is there anyone who is yet to get registered? Then only I will touch this registration topic, otherwise I will move on. If there are people who are yet to get registered, then I will go into that. Then I will cover the reporting formats, that is, will give you a brief introduction about how to file the reports, how to generate the text file, what are the data quality trends in the reports which are already being submitted by the brokers, and how this report can be generated and filed over the FinNet. FIU was started in 2005, but initially what we get is, we get the report in the form of CD. This CD was sent by you after preparing the reports, and it reaches to FIU after a period of 1 month. Then we used to download all these CDs into our server, do kind of a manual search, and then disseminate this report to the law enforcement agencies. So by the time we get the report, and the time in which we
send it across to the different law enforcement agencies, there is a gap of 3 to 4 months. So we conceptualized the FinNet in 2007 with the aim that the report should be submitted online. It should be analyzed by the FIU through electronic mediums, and it should be disseminated to the law enforcement agencies also in an online manner. So that was the aim with which we started the project FinNet. It basically consists of 3 different portals. First portal is FinGate, which you all will be using. This is the portal through which you will file the report. Second part, which has been shown in this diagram between by the middle 2 block diagrams, is FinCore. There we do lot of analysis inside the FIU. And third part is FinX, which is our gateway to the law enforcement agencies. So you are mainly concerned about the FinGate, but I am giving you the brief introduction about the others also, just to make you understand what we do exactly. So what is there in the FinGate? We have given you 3 different utilities. One is the Excel utility for generation of text file. Second is report generation utility for generating the XML file out of those text files. Third is the report validation utility, where we validate the whatever XML you generate. And last one is FinNet gateway portal, where we log in and enter into the site for uploading the reports. This is just a snapshot of home page where which shows all the different modules, report module, user module, messaging module. The important point to be noted is, contrary to the conception that FinGate is only for uploading the report, this is not the case. FinGate is for a collaborative purpose. Because not only you can upload the reports through FinGate, what you can do is, you can find out the history of your uploaded reports. So at the end of the year, if you want to find out how many reports I have uploaded throughout the year, that you can retrieve from the FinGate. You can also have the information about the rejected report, that how many of your reports filed in a particular batch got rejected, what was the reason for rejection. Then you have to refile all those reports, what are the reports which are overdue for you. And apart from that, FinGate is a collaborative channel for your communication with the FIU. So when my analyst works within the FIU on a particular STR submitted by you, and if he feels that more additional information is required, then that additional information request he will communicate to you through FinGate. So you will come to know that FIU needs additional information for this STR submitted by you, and you will also find that additional information through FinGate only. Messaging platform of the FinGate is also of great use in a sense that FIU broadcasts the different alerts through this messaging platform. It's a secure communication channel between the FIU and the nodal officer of reporting entity. So say within FIU, if Deepika ma'am wants to broadcast that these are the PAN numbers which has been classified as a red flag indicator kind of thing, and if you have any client which belongs to these PAN numbers, then that message will go through this FinGate only. Why I am telling you this? Because as a broker, you may not have STR to file each and every day. There may be occasion when you don't have any STR to file 15 to 20 days altogether, or even for a month altogether. But my request to you is that at least log in into this FinGate at least once in a week, so that if any alerts or message is broadcast to you, that you can see and then can react to it. Lot of alerts FIU communicate through FinGate in the form of, say, these are the telephone numbers which has been probably broadcasted by maybe by ID or by some CBDT, PAN numbers, list of individuals. All these comes to you through FinGate only, and if you log in after every week, you will be able to react to that. Now, bit of information, what we do with the STR reports which you submit. This is important for you to know. so that you understand that when you report, what are the things you should keep in mind. When you report anything, you give me a set of information about an individual. You give me his PAN number, you give me his address, you give me his account number, or his some other ID number. Apart from his other details like father's name, his spouse name, his addresses, his telephone numbers, emails. So you are not the only one who reports to the FIU. FIU gets a report from the entire financial sector, banks, mutual funds, insurance companies, now sub-registrar and registrar also for the real estate, share brokers, you do that reporting, cooperative banks, so all categories of banks. So a lot of reports comes to us. In a month probably we get something to the volume of 10 lakhs to 15 lakhs of reports, different kinds of reports all put together. So assume a situation when I start investing in the financial sector. Say I went to the bank at the age of 15 years and I opened an account in my name. I gave my some attributes there. My date of birth will be there, my father's name will be there, then I open a bank account. If at that time the reports in my name comes to the FIU will store my data that yes, Chaitanya Shukla is there of age 15 years, that is his father's name and that is his date of birth. After 18 years, I opened say an account in an insurance company, I bought an insurance policy and again a report come to FIU and some new attribute has been added to it, that my address is now something else, my PAN number is this, my driving license number is this. At the age of 23, I opened an account with a share broker and then the share broker has reported me with some other details. So what we do in FIU, when a report comes into our system, we try to find out whether we have any information about that individual or not. So again, it's a software-based approach. So if a report comes in the form of a name of a Chaitanya Shukla, my database says, yes, I have Chaitanya Shukla, around 500 Chaitanya Shukla with me, with different attributes. That this report of Chaitanya Shukla matches one of the Chaitanya Shukla in terms of his father's name. Or there may be some other attribute matching. It may be in the form of a driving license number, or a telephone number, or an email, date of birth, his spouse name. So software matches different attributes, which is already there in my database. So then the software realizes, yes, this Chaitanya Shukla exists in our database and this new report has given me some additional information. अब क्या करेगा वो, मेरे अगर 5 अकाउंट उसके पास है तो एक छठा अकाउंट नंबर और ऐड कर देगा, 5 एड्रेसेस है तो छठा एड्रेस और ऐड कर दिया, फादर्स नेम ऑलरेडी है, पैन नंबर ऑलरेडी है, ड्राइविंग लाइसेंस नंबर ऑलरेडी है, इसमें आपने आधार नंबर दे दिया तो आधार नंबर भी ऐड हो गया. सो इट हैव ए कंप्लीट फोल्डर having all the information of Chaitanya Shukla. Now in this next step, what it will do is, it will try to find out the relationship. Then yes, Chaitanya Shukla is there in our database, but who all are the persons whom this Chaitanya Shukla is known to? Now on what basis my system do that? One is on the basis of PAN number. So if I share my PAN number with someone else, it will say these two persons are related because they share the same PAN number. Or if I share my account number, I may share my account number with my wife, with my parents, or with my friend. So it will say yes, these two persons are known to each other because they are sharing the account number. Third thing which is important is, for your case, for understanding, your understanding is that if I have been reported by a reporting entity with some other person. So if you are reporting me with Deepika ma'am, the system will say Chaitanya Shukla is known to Deepika Mittal because Ari has reported these two persons together. So that way my system goes to find out the relationship up to 4 degrees of separation. So when I say 4 degrees of separation, I have been reported with Deepika Mittal, so I have been linked to Deepika Mittal. Deepika Mittal in some other report has been reported with Mr. Bagri. So it will say Chaitanya Shukla is known to Mr. Bagri for 2nd degree of separation. Then there is another report of Mr. Bagri with someone else. Then it will say Chaitanya Shukla is related to that person for 3rd degree of separation. And like that we go up to 4 degree of separation. So what I have got is Chaitanya Shukla in center and his whole lot of relationship. then it will try to find out what are the reports which are available in the name of Chaitanya Shukla in the system, and reports which are related to his known persons. It will accumulate all those reports and form a case. So this is how a case is formed, and then my analyst will take the decision to whom this case is to be disseminated. So what does my comprehensive case contain? It contains details about my information on accounts, my different addresses, my different ID numbers. It also contains information about my relationship, what are the persons whom I know, what are their different attributes, what are their addresses, what are their account numbers. So this complete folio then goes to the law enforcement agencies based on the investigation done by the FIU analyst. So if FIU analyst feels that this case should go to the CBDT, it will get disseminated to CBDT. If he feels that it involves a case of correction, it will go to the CBI. So like this, the analysis of reports which you submit takes place, and the information goes to different law enforcement agencies. Now, do you want me to cover this registration part? How many people are not registered? Then only I will take this topic. If they have any issues in registration, then I will. Yeah. Can you use the mic?
Any specific problem you have?
Yeah, ma'am.
Please describe the problem.
ये साइट से जाता ही नहीं मैं रजिस्ट्रेशन में साइट पे ही नहीं जाता हमारे तो ऑफिस में से
साइट पे नहीं जाता।
माइक चालू
Probably आपका सर्टिफिकेट आपने इंस्टॉल पर फिंगेट पे इज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड. यू डोंट नीड टू गो टू द फिंगेट फॉर रजिस्ट्रेशन. You don't need to go inside that site for the registration. It's a two-way process. I have a small video to play on that. That first step is the RE registration, and then is the principal officer registration.
आप प्लीज बताइएगा कि कौन सी स्टेज पे आपको दिक्कत हो रहा है. पहले आप ये देखिए कि आप ये कर भी रहे हैं नहीं. अगर आप यही कर रहे हैं तो कौन सी स्टेज पे आपको दिक्कत हो रहा है, सो दैट आपका प्रॉब्लम रिजॉल्व हो सके. So this is the Finnet website where you go after logging into finnet.gov.in. Then you will click on this register new user. Once you click on this, what will come to you is this form. You have to click here. The entire form will open up.
you have to fill your reporting entity number, that is the number which has been given to you by the regulator and which is unique to you. You will put your own reporting entity name, then category. Reporting entity category for the brokers will be INBRO. You put here all other details like address, city, state, PIN code, other user details. For user details, the one who is registering the reporting entity, that details will come. Then click on next, and after verifying all these details, you submit this. A request number will be generated. When you click on this request number, a form is generated. You have to sign this form and scan it and send it to the FIU by mail to ctrcell@fiuindia.gov.in. So this is for reporting entity registration request purpose. So once you send it, FIU REID will be communicated back to you by the FIU. So what is the problem you have faced in this stage?
करते थे जो आज निकल गए थे तो उन्होंने बोला था कि सर पहले हम लोग हमारे उनके उसमें होते हैं, इसमें होता ही नहीं हमारे उसमें.
Probably you have to get your this system in which you are working on it. या तो इसमें कोई फायरवॉल है जो ब्लॉक कर रही है उस साइट को. But this is not the issue which we have faced at all, that they are not able to access the site. So once you are registered with here, then you will go into the next step of PO registration. So FIU REID will be communicated to you. Then this FIU REID will be used for the PO registration, and the person who has been registered as a principal officer, those details you will provide in the PO registration case. Again, in a similar way, a form is generated. You have to sign it and get it signed by the supervisor of the PO and send it to the FIU. Once approved, you can then start logging into the FinGate. Any other person who has faced difficulty? What was your difficulty, sir?
एक सेकंड.
Hard copy has been sent to FIU Delhi, and as per the protocol, we have to get an email ID. The email giving the default password, using which you can take login and change the password. So far, we have not received the default password.
So you have done this first one, or you have PO registration?
PO registration we have done.
Then probably
We have two entities. One entity we have already received the default password. Second case we are unable to get the default password. We have sent a series of communication. We received a standard reply telling that password is reset. But to reset password, we have to have a default password, or we have to click that forward password option. When I click the forward password option, it asks security question. I have not
basically you have not received the default password.
Yeah.
These two entities are your own, which you have registered?
No, one is other one, but I have done successfully the registration portion. The other case, I am unable to get the default password from the FIU.
There are two things. Are the PO same in both these cases?
No.
Different person.
Yeah, different.
Then what I request you is just pass on your details at the end of the session. I will get back to you.
Okay.
Now, another thing about the registration is that most of you will also be a commodity broker or depository. So in that case, you don't require a separate registration for each category. Because earlier, what we were insisting is that we should have a separate registration for a depository participant and separate one for the share broker. Now this is not required. You can have only one registration, and same RE category you can use for filing the different reports. I will tell you how you can do that in future slides.
Sir, but when we have already
register for all the entity, what is to be done now?
When you already register, nothing is to be done. You can use that registration for filing reports for depository also, for share broker also.
We don't need anything.
You don't need to register again for different category.
Okay.
There is no deletion required. We continue to use one. When Chaitanya gets to that part, we will tell you how to distinguish your reports which you file as a broker or as a depository participant or any other entity in the intermediary category. He will tell you on what to do. This is only for those people who are already brokers and depository participants and are considering doing another registration. So in case you are the same entity, you need not do that registration. If you've done, there is no harm.
Now coming to the main task of preparing the XML and generating reports. First of all, for any online system, there has to be a fixed reporting format. I cannot have a system where I ask different reporting entities to file the report as and when they want, in whatever shape they want. So there has to be some fixed format in which I should get the report. Accordingly, we also have a fixed format prescribed for reporting entities. So we have two different reporting formats. One is account-based reporting format and other one is transaction-based reporting format. Account-based reporting format, which is mainly used for account-based relationship, and since all of you are having an account-based relationship with your clients, this is the format which you will use. Transaction-based is for transaction purposes when the person about whom you are reporting does not have an account with you. It may come into picture when you are trying to report an STR for an attempted transaction. If some clients come to your office and try to do some kind of transaction, just like a Cobra post, and it appears to you that he is suspicious, then you can file that report in a transaction-based reporting format. But for all practical purpose, account-based reporting format is the one which you will use. What does it contain? It contains basically 7 files. The file starts from batch file, which gives you the details about the reporting entity, the person who is filing it, the type of report you are filing. Then it has a report file, branch file, account file, transaction file, individual person file and legal person file. I will explain each one of them in detail with each and every field, what is to be written in each field. If you are able to understand this filing process, probably you will understand the reporting. This is my batch file. It contains information what kind of report you are filing. So there is a tab called report type. This report type will say that within a batch you are filing a CTR or an STR. Only one kind of report can be filed in one batch. For a broker, probably they file only STR generally. So either NTR or STR will come here. One batch cannot contain two different kinds of report. It has to be either STR or NTR, but it cannot have STR and NTR both. Then reporting entity name, which will be the name of the reporting entity. So it's your name that will come here. Default name is ABC reporting entity. So whenever you are filing a report, just change it to your own name, because we have the case where we have received the reports with the ABC reporting name also. This is the name of the firm. This is the name of the firm. Reporting entity category. Now this is important if you are trying to report for depository as well as for share broker. So if you are reporting as a share broker, this category will be INBRO. And if you are reporting as a depository, then the reporting entity category of the depository will come here. So this is how we will distinguish that to whom you are reporting. You are reporting for share broker or you are reporting for the depository. So this RE category you will change as per your report. RE registration number is the number which is given to you by the regulator. FIU RE is the number which we gave you. It's a 10-digit alphanumeric number. And FIU RE is the number on which I have lot of processes based on this number. So please fill it correctly, because again we have the case where we have received the report in the with FIU ID 510X and 0001. And we have the case where the FIU ID of the different reporting entity is also being reported by someone else. So whatever FIU ID has been allocated to you, put that here. Then we have the detail of PO name, designation, address, city, state code, pin code, country code. So here details of the principal officer will come. Principal officer details will come here only. It will not come in the name of the main person in the report file. This is the only place where we are asking you about the name of the principal officer. Because lot of reports we have received where the main person name has been put up as the name of the principal officer. That main person name is the name of the person against whom you are filing the report. So we have the case where the principal officer is filing the report against the principal officer himself. So we want principal officer detail to come up only in this place: PO name, PO designation, address, city, state code. Telephone number, mobile number. Initially we were allowing all both the numbers more than 6 digits. But now telephone number has to be 11 digits with 0 as the STD code. So if you are filing 022, then your 8-digit telephone number will come. If it is less than 11 digits, the report will get rejected. Mobile number has to be of minimum 10 digits. Batch number is again your internal number, whatever if you want to give for your reference. Batch date is the date in which you are filing. Now this is important: batch type and original batch ID. Batch type can be 3: new batch, replacement batch and deletion batch. New batch is the report which you are filing for the first time. Replacement batch, you have filed the report, then subsequently realize there are some mistakes which you have committed in that report, or the person has been reported wrongly, so you can file the replacement report. So what I will need is, once you file the replacement report, I will delete your original report and the replacement report will get processed. Now assume a situation where you have filed the report but you feel no, this report need not be filed. I have filed an incorrect report completely. I don't need to file a report against this person. You can delete that report also by filing the deletion batch. So when you file a replacement batch, I will process the report as per your new batch. But when you file a deletion batch, I will delete your original report and don't process it again. Original batch ID, this is when you file your deletion or replacement batch, so I need your original batch ID. There are cases when you are trying to file a replacement batch and deletion batch, but if you don't give me your original batch ID, I will never be able to find out which batch you want to replace or delete. So whatever batch you want to replace or delete, that batch ID will come here in the original batch ID. So once you complete this thing, you will click on this, click here to create a text file, to generate a text file on the batch file. So this is how a text file for the batch file will be generated. Now next file is a branch file, which is just a basic file which gives me the detail of the branch which is filed the report. So you may have different branches. You may try to file a report for a client which belongs to your say Delhi branch. Then that details will come, that which is the branch which is involved in this report. So that branch details will come in this file. Otherwise it's a very routine kind of file, nothing specific comes here. Now this report file is important. First thing you should notice here is that report serial number. This report serial number should be unique in a report file. What does my report file indicate? My report file indicates that within a batch, how many number of reports I am filing. I may file one single report in a batch, or I may file 2000 different reports in a batch. So how many reports I am filing in a particular batch, that details will come in the report file. So report serial number in a report file is unique. So it will run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If you are filing 10 different reports in a batch, so this report serial number will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If you are filing a deletion batch or a replacement batch and you want to replace or delete a particular report of a batch, then this original report serial number will come here in second column. That for this batch I want to replace or delete this report. So that will come in the second column. Third column will be the name of the main person. Here people are filling the name of their principal officers. This main person name should be the name of the person against whom you are filing a report. So here in this case, within this batch, I am filing 4 reports against these 4 persons. So these 4 persons are different persons. PO name will not come here. Then, how this report is generated? When I say source of alert, so when you file an STR, something should trigger that alert. Either it may be a media report that we have read in the newspaper that so and so person is involved in such and such thing, and that person is your client. So source of alert is a media report. Or you may get a query from a law enforcement. CBT made a letter request to you asking for the details of your client. So source of alert is law enforcement query. Or you may have a source of alert in the form of transaction. The client has made certain transactions. SEBI has, BSE has given you some kind of alert, and based on that, you are filing an STR against your client. So that is your transaction monitoring. The source of alert is your transaction monitoring. Similarly, source of alert can also be risk management. So you have some risk category of your customer. Particular customer, you find that yes, that person belongs to a particular level of risk and some STR has to be reported. For that is a risk management. Another form of source of alert may be in the form of typology, law enforcement query, media query, watch list. So say FIU gives you a watch list kind of a things, and these are the PAN numbers which are red flag indicators, and if one of the PAN numbers belongs to your client, then again an STR has to be generated, which is based on watch list query. So there are different kinds of source of alerts, which is must be there in the red flag indicators. And red flag indicators for this sector will be certainly. So probably FIU will soon circulate the red flag indicators, which will be classified based on different source of alerts. So that source of alert should come from column 4 to 7. Then this is I am generating this STR. The source is this alert, and this even within that alert there may be different indicators. So it is possible for a STR different kinds of indicators may trigger. One probably हो सकता है watch list से भी मैच हो, law enforcement query भी हो, और आपके transactions में भी निकल के आए. So there may be multiple alert indicators which may trigger an STR. That details should come here. Now for these 4 columns, again, FATF or the Financial Action Task Force has defined the STR only in 4 specific cases. Number 1, when there is suspicion that it is generates the proceeds of crime. Number 2, it involves complex transaction. Number 3, it has got no economic rationale. Number 4, there is suspicion of financing of terrorism. So out of only these 4 suspicion and STR will trigger. So you have to tell me that what are the four, out of these four, what is the reason because of which you are filing this STR. So these four columns will indicate that thing. How you will do that? For tick, you will say Y. For not belonging reason, you will say N. Then there is a ground of suspicion should come. Now ground of suspicion, I need a complete information. Simple ground of suspicion, one liner will not work. Would you mind if you want to say something on this?
Suspicion like trading in illiquid stock. Now, trading in illiquid stock, what is the suspicion? You are not even mentioning the stock. A broker STR typically goes to SEBI. अगर किसी ब्रोकर ने फाइल करी है क्योंकि उसमें इन्वेस्टिगेशन कॉल करेगा मार्केट रिलेटेड एक्टिविटीज में SEBI does that investigation. Now when it goes to SEBI, you can understand किस टाइप की इंफॉर्मेशन SEBI को चाहिए होगी. SEBI को चाहिए होगा कि क्या स्टॉक था, किस टाइम में ट्रेडिंग हुई थी. जब आप स्टॉक ही मेंशन नहीं करेंगे तो SEBI क्या इन्वेस्टिगेट करेंगे. तो आप जब आप इतनी मेहनत कर रहे हैं, वर्किंग सो हार्ड टू फाइंड एन STR, गोइंग थ्रू ऑल दिस प्रोसेस, देन माइट एज वेल गिव कंप्लीट डिटेल्स. क्या स्टॉक है, what is the price of the stock, what is the variation you've observed in the last 5 or 6 months. तो उसके स्टॉक के जो कंपनी है उसके क्या फंडामेंटल्स हैं. These are some of the things which should show कि why you consider it as a suspicious transaction, not because it is like a trading in an illiquid state. So that is the kind of something like 2 lines saying penny stock. I mean, what do you understand? What is the, even the volume of the trade is not mentioned here. Why do you think कि penny stock में अगर ये trade हो रहा है, this is suspicious? So you need to give some parameters there, some description there, which will help us also and SEBI also, who is the investigating agency, to look into what kind of an activity is happening.
We have a lot of cases where GOS is even less than 150 words. I have that data also. I will show you that also. And the next important is this priority rating. This is your perception that how much importance FIU should give to that STR. It is P1, P2 and P3. P1 is highest priority, then P2 and P3. So if you think that STR which you are filing is quite urgent in nature, it's quite important, give it P1. And if you think that it's a normal routine kind of STR which you are filing, then it will be P2 or P3. Whatever rating you give to an STR makes an impact in terms of processing. If you say it's a P1 kind of STR, then FIU will process it immediately. Otherwise, it will come up as a routine Q kind of thing. So if you want an STR to be processed immediately, give it a P1. Or else it's a normal STR, P2 or P3 kind of given. Additional documents, this is the last column. If you are saying that yes, if you are putting it as a Y, it indicates that you have an additional information to be shared with FIU. In normal cases, it will remain N, but in case if you have something additional to be shared, put it Y, then FIU will get back to you and get that information from you. So if you have more information to be given, because see, it's a reporting format which is designed, but it does not cover each and every part. We may be missing a lot of things which you want to put across to the FIU. So in that case, you put it Y, and then we will get back to you and get those documents from you. Now account file, so I have covered batch file, which gives me the information about the type of reports you are filing, who is the PO, what is the reporting entity. Report file will give me the information that how many reports are in this batch, these reports are against which person. Account file will give me the information about the details of the account, which are involved in one particular report. So I am filing 4 different reports. So what I will do is, for each of all these 4 reports, what are the different account numbers involved? I will give those details here. How the system will track? You will give account number in column D and corresponding report serial number in column B. So for report number 1, this case and this case, 4 different accounts are involved. So there may be a case when you are submitting a report against a person and you have information about the related persons also. So you have 4 or 5 different accounts to be reported. So in that case, don't file 5 different reports for that person. File just one single report and all 5 account numbers should come here against the report serial number 1. So multiple accounts belonging to the same person or related person, you want to bunch together all those persons. So that can be reported by giving the same report serial number in the account file. So you want to report 5 different persons who are involved in some kind of trading kind of activity of a stock. So one way is to report all 5 separately, giving different report serial number to all 5 of them. But rather than doing that, as I explained to you earlier, if you report me together with someone else, the FIU will say, I know that person. But if you report me separately and Deepika Mittal separately, then I will never be able to find out whether I know Mr. Deepika Mittal or not. So if 5 different persons are involved in kind of a trading activity with each other, so report all 5 of them together in one single report, so that I can link them. That is possible. You put all 5 account numbers here and give same report serial number. So I will say these all account numbers belongs to one single report.
Recently we got some STRs where there was a trading in a particular script. I'm forgetting the exact case. But I remember in the end there was a paragraph written there which said we have 47 more of such accounts where we know these people are related and they are doing similar activity. That means the person who was filing the report knew they were all related parties. They were all doing the transaction in the same script, not necessarily amongst themselves, but it was a suspicious transaction to the PO. So instead of actually reporting all of them together, they made 48 STRs out of it. Now that does not serve the purpose because I don't know who those 48 people are. So for me to manually link it to the system is going to be very difficult. I can't link them. So please be very careful when you file STRs. Make sure that you club up the related parties together. Anybody known associates, like Chaitanya explained, the purpose is to form associations in the system so that your money can be tracked. That is the basic purpose of doing all this exercise, so that you can track illegal money. If you can't work out the source of funds or the movement of funds, the whole thing becomes futile. So my request is, please, what I have told you, do not show. Please try and make associations and relationships as far as possible when you are filing an STR. You see the same group of people doing a similar activity, please club them up together. People can be related by a PAN, an account number, like a joint holder. They can also be related by a transaction. All you need to do is clarify in the GOS that these 2 people we are reporting in this report are related by transaction. Chaitanya and I may not be related by in any other way, but we may be only related in the way that we are holding a joint account, or he is transferring some securities to me and transferring some securities back to him. That is also a kind of a relationship as far as system is concerned.
Now another important thing here in this file is if you want to say report a mandate account. Mandate account is the word they use.
Normally whenever you open a brokerage account, there is always a registered bank account from where you receive the money and where you do from where you take a pay in and a payout. So that account we would request you that you should report it along with your brokering account. So this is what Chandani is going to explain how you do, because that can do an immense value add. Because we all know that in the securities market no cash transaction is accepted. So whatever will come to a brokering firm will be a check or a bank transfer. But the underlying payment, the credit for that purpose may be cash also. So how will we find out whether there is a cash deposited in account? If you show us that account, that this is the account which is associated with the brokering account, and we find that the bank has filed some CPRs against them, that is a cash transaction report. So we can very safely deduce that a lot of cash has been pumped into that account and that has then moved to the security market. So we would request that you start reporting the registered bank account along with the brokering account in your STMs. So this is what Chandani did.
Here also you can report both the accounts. One, your brokering account, you can report that this account is in the name of person AAA. And so this first row will say that it's a brokering account. Now concentrate on the last column which says no transactions to be reported. Mind you, this is just my account file. I am not reporting any transaction in this file. I am just giving the information about the accounts. So first account you say is my brokering account, where no transaction to be reported is N. That means I have transactions to be reported. For registered account of a bank in which you get the payout of pay, for that again in the second row for the same report serial number you will put that account. Again also in the holder's name will remain the same. You will say this is the account number, and now in the last column you will say why. That we don't have any transactions to be reported for this account, but this account is just being given as the purpose of information. This is one way of reporting it. Another way I will let you know through in the transaction file. So you report both the accounts here in the account file. For one, you will report the transactions which the person may have carried out with you. And in the second part, you don't report any transactions because you do not know anything about those accounts. You just have the account number and the bank name with you. So put that account number and say no transaction to be reported as Y. So any issues in this account file or any clarification you want?
Sir, if it is the transaction has taken place in the, not in the branch but franchisee, still we required to define them as a branch, or?
You can define them as a branch. For reporting purpose, you can define them as a branch and give the details in the branch file. Branch file gives you the details that who is the, which particular branch or franchisee is giving you the report.
The transaction has taken place in one of the branches and the main office is identifying it. So it is not the franchisee who is reporting it.
So your main office will report.
Yeah.
Your main office will report, but main office needs to tell us that which is the branch which is involved in it.
Even though it is a franchisee, we need to define it as a branch.
Yes. If you want to report the transactions taken place in the franchisee, then you give the details of the franchisee. The file name is branch file, but it is not necessary that only the branch details will come. If you are taking as a franchisee also as a partner and you want to report his transactions, you can put his detail in the branch file. What we need is address and some kind of code which is uniquely given by you to identify those franchisees. That detail will come in the branch file.
So this file contains even cumulative turnover details, debit and credit. So this details we have to give only relating to SCR which we have filed, it's only those transactions, or during the day, during the year, whatever transaction he has done, that cumulative figures will be.
See, cumulative credit and debit turnover is to be mentioned from 1st April till date of alert. So it is just to give us an idea that how much transaction has taken place in that account. You are filing an SPR for a particular transaction which is suspicious. But this cumulative debit credit amount will give me an idea that how quickly this account is being used and what are the transactions which has been taking So you are filing an STR against a person who has carried out a transaction of say 1 lakh rupees. STR against a person who has carried out a transaction of 1 lakh and with a cumulative credit debit turnover negligible is one way of looking at it, and for the other person with a transaction of 1 lakh with a cumulative debit credit turnover of say 50 lakhs, then these two STRs will be looked up into a different way. So this cumulative cash credit and debit I need from 1st April till the date when you are filing the report. So if you are filing the report today on 25th of January, so for that account, apart from your transaction information, what I need is total turnover in that particular account from 1st of April 2015 till 25th of January 2016. Credit as well as debit. Now this is my transaction file. It gives details about the transactions which has taken place in each and every account. We have defined the accounts in account file, whatever may be the number. So here you will give the transactions of each and every account which you want to report. It may be large number of transactions, it may have a small number of transactions. It depends on you what transaction you want to report. Now here also you can report this registered account which I told you earlier. But here in this case, where you will report, you are reporting a transaction related to say this account number. This is the transaction which has taken place. Say money has come to your account through HDFC Bank with some account number. So that registered account or mandate account details you can put here, where I am asking in this column related account number. So this related account number will be the account number of the HDFC Bank. Related institution name will be the HDFC Bank name will come. Related institution reference number will be IFSC code, BICR code, MICR code, whatever is available with you about that branch, that will come in the related institution reference number. So there are two different ways of reporting this registered account. One is you do it in the account file, and the second part is you can do it in the transaction file while defining a transaction, because say if I am your account holder, I may have one account with you, but I may have carried out the transaction with you by using my three different banks. So this related account information can come here in this sheet. One transaction I may have used HDFC Bank, for other I may have used ICICI Bank. So that way you can also define the related account in your transaction file. So till now what we have covered is, we have covered batch file, we have covered how many reports are there in a batch, we have covered these reports have been originated from which branch, what are the different accounts involved, what are the different transactions involved. Now my next two files will cover what are the different individuals who are the account holders or the legal person who are the account holder. Legal person is companies. So I have two different files for them. One is INP file, which is the individual file, and second is LP file, which is the legal person file. So I will give the details of my all individuals who are the account holders in the INP file. What all details I will give? I will give this name, customer ID, if you have given any unique ID to that person, relationship flag. This is important because A indicates the account holder, B indicates the authorized signatory. So assume a situation where you want to report an account holder which is a company. The company, yes, company is a legal person, but for physical it does not exist. What I need is the person behind that. So for all accounts in which the account holder is a company, I need the details of the authorized signatory in my individual file. That detail will come with the relationship flag D. So if you are reporting a Messrs ABC, the authorized signatory of Messrs ABC is person, say Mr. X, then Mr. X will come here as the authorized signatory for a particular account with the relationship flag B. And then what I need in this file apart from this is, which is important, is occupation. If you are reporting a particular client, what I need from you is that occupation should be given, which will help me analyzing the STR. His PAN number has to be given. His other details like mobile, fax, email, identification number, if you are having some, then that should also be come in this file. So this file gives you the information about the basic attributes of a person. Whatever information you have about that person, it should come here, including the name of father and spouse. Nothing is mandatory in this file. So it is not that you need to fill each and every column, but whatever maximum information you can provide, please do that. And my request is at least occupation field should be filled in, because whenever an STR comes, the volume of trading the person is doing in isolation does not make any sense, because we have received an STR in the name of, say, Ajim Premji also for making a transaction of 10 lakh of rupees. Unless and until we know what that person do, that isolation amount will not work. We have an STR at all?
No, another thing in the individual file, like Chaitanya says, in case the entity who has an account with you is a corporate, please leave the individual sheet blank. Unless and until you are giving details of the directors. Because invariably what we say is in a lot of times, if the individual file, there is no individual to be reported, a lot of reporting entities put XX there. This is not a paper format that you need to put not applicables or cross out or put lines anywhere. So in case there is no individual required to be reported, please do not touch this sheet, do not open this sheet and put data. Same goes for the legal entity sheet also. In case you are reporting an individual, please do not report a legal person. And for God's sake, do not report your broking firm as a legal person. I was just telling Uttam that I have 220 STRs of a broking firm where he's put the name of the individual correctly against whom he's reporting. But in the legal person file, he's put the name of the broking firm / the name of the principal officer. Please don't do that. And this is very typical of broking firms. There are 2 or 3 such instances which we've seen like this. In one case, a broking firm has put the name of the principal officer in the main person name, right in the second file.
See, putting the name in the main person name will not make much of a difference to our processing. It's only for the reference purpose. But putting your own name in the legal person file will make a lot of difference. As I said, what you report, if you report 2 different persons together in one single report, we will say these 2 persons are known to each other. So your intention is to report Mr. Dawood Ibrahim to the FIU, and the legal person file you have put your own name. So when the case goes to the ID, it will say Dawood Ibrahim is known to particular firm, share broking firm, and these 2 things are related to each other. So legal person, if you don't have any legal person to report, leave that file blank, do not put anything. Similarly, important thing is that do not put XX, YY, NA, not applicable, not available in any ID number, address or name. What I have told you earlier, we form lot of relationship based on addresses. So if system says that this is particular address Chaitanya Shukla lives, and for this particular address someone else is also reported, so my system will say I know that person because we both reside at the same address. Now assume a situation where lot of entities are putting any in the address field, or not available or not applicable. So all those persons who have been reported with NA not available or not applicable will get linked together. Similarly, if you put name as XX, YY or ZZ, there are a lot of banks who do this kind of reporting. So all those reports with XX, YY, ZZ will get linked together. XX does not exist, but their addresses exist. So XX will have lot of addresses. Number may reach in thousands. And all those real persons who resides in these 1,000 addresses will get linked together. So data quality is one issue which is important in this kind of reporting, where the system makes lot of processing. Similar is the case, as I told you, in the report file and in the account file, you make a distinction between different reports. So you want to file a report against 5 different persons, you will give different report serial number to 5 different accounts. But assume a situation where you want to file a report against 5 different persons, but you put the same report serial number there. Now for the system, this is one single report in which 5 different persons appears. Increase this 5 different persons to 2,000. You want to file a report in a batch against 2,000 different persons which are not related to each other, but in the account file you are given the same report serial number. So my system will say these 2,000 reports these 2,000 different persons are reported together in one single report by the reporting entity, so they are known to each other. And out of these 2,000, if one of them is a say known convict, then all these 1,999 persons will get related to that. And this case goes to different agencies and they will say yes, these are linked by the FIU, so they must be known to each other. So whatever you report, whatever you put in this file is important, because STR filing is a serious business. It is not that you can file it the way you want. So be careful when you file any STR, because whatever you file gets converted into linkages and it goes to the law enforcement agencies. Fortunately, when you look at the data quality, what I feel is whatever the share broker and DP participants are reporting is much better than most of the banks in terms of data quality and whatever reports you file. And when I say banks, it includes foreign banks also, private banks and public sector banks. Leave aside the cooperative bank. In terms of percentage of reporting, the errors and the other factors, you are at least better off than that. Now this is a kind of analysis which we have done about the how this STRs has been generated. What are the main reasons of STRs? So what we have found out is mainly you are generating STRs based on complex transactions. This color indicates the STR based on complex transactions. Blue color indicates STR based on no economic rationale. So these are the 2 grounds on which you are filing the STR. Third one is the proceeds of crime, which is quite negligible here. Financing of terrorism is quite understandable, because at your level it will be very difficult to identify whether the money is being used for terrorist purpose or not. But otherwise, it appears a balanced graph. Now, probably here is the case where some work needs to be done. This is the different alert indicators which you are using for generation of STR. In bulk of the cases, it is transaction monitoring. And second largest contributor is risk management. I am not sure what kind of risk management you employ, but if someone can tell me, then we can have some idea. Lot of STRs some kind of data error.
To our understanding, most people are right now still using software solutions to create certain kind of alerts, and that's why these systems, either they are called as transaction monitoring systems or they are called as risk management systems, and that's why you see largely the risk and the transaction monitoring. Based on our experience of 100 plus implementations, the risk profiling has still not been as mature as it should have been, but largely being the software solution that grow up, or it could be repository alerts or the exchange alerts that actually comes from a solution.
So, yes, whatever you have reported, these two are the transaction monitoring is quite understandable, but risk management is also coming out. But yes, I find a very few SPRs which is based on employee initiative. So you are the basically the face which interact with the customer. So this is one area probably which gives you a lot of information. LDA query are very less. Media is there in the 2014-15, but still it is very less. Watch list, there is 0 SPRs. Business estate, so any SPRs which initiates from say franchisee, that is basically from business associates. Customer verification, there is only 4 SPRs in 14-15. You may have lot of number of cases where customer verification failed. You went to the customer, you find out that whatever details that the customer has given is not correct. But we have received during the entire 14-15 only 4 SPRs based on customer verification. It's okay, it's basically a transition phase. We are in the process of getting on board for the reporting. But over the period of time when this reporting gets matured, what I expect is a mix of SPRs in all these categories. Probably the system which Mr. Sagar will design will also take care of it. SPR generated out of different counts, employee initiation, all this. So it's a normal growth curve which has been shown here. Otherwise it looks quite okay. Now another problem is that suspicion duty is not being marked. So in the report file, suspicion due to what reason? No economic rationale, complex transactions, proceeds of client financing payment. So if you see this depository participants, in near about 20 to 30% of cases, you don't mark it. Either you put X or you put N. So it does not help us in finding out the reason because of which this SCR is being generated. So this is one category area where we have to make some kind of amendment that you should mark at least this column. What is the suspicion? Now this appears to be a good picture in terms of percentage of reports with GOS less than 150 words. I'm not sure about the quality, but from the quantity perspective, you seem to be doing good. Only 1% of share brokers have submitted report with GOS less than 150 words. If the number of words is any indication about the quality, then I can say that yes, your reports are good. But quality-wise, probably Deepika ma'am is the right person who can come in. But as terms of quantity, it appears to be good because only 1% is less than 150 words. Compare it with the public sector bank, where 88% of report is having less than 150 words. Or even private sector bank has 32% report less than 150 words of GOS. So that way, probably you are leading the chart with 1 and 5%. Now, this is about number of SPRs that over the years we have received. lot of progress has been done in the number of STRs which we have received from depository participants. From 151 STRs in 2012-13 to around 738 in 14-15, 494 in 13-14. Share brokers, I am not sure whether the trend is of stabilizing or it can be increased further. Now, right now that we are doing this, ma'am, from last 3 years we are receiving something of 40 STRs constantly. Probably with onboarding more will come in future. But for last 3 years, this figure is around 1,000 per year. But for depository, it has increased from 151 to 738 over the period of last 2 years. So now you have generated 7 different text files. Now how will you generate the XML out of it? For this, we have given you 2 different utilities. One is report generation and another one is report validation. Are you generating this XML out of your own and then straight away going to the validation? So generation part, probably he has taken care of. In fact, even text file and all that he has taken care of. But you should understand what is there in the text file, because that will give you an idea that what we want to know and how it should be reported. So this is my reporting generation utility. You will put the data capture method here. Then in the next screen, what you will do is, you will say this external text file, because we have generated the text file. What kind of report it is? The reporting format is my account based. Report is str. I will then select the directory for the text file where my text files are being stored. And then I will form the key validation and structure validation. Once it is completed, and I will give the location for saving the errors for key validation and structure validation. If there is any error, I will go to this location, check what is the error and correct my files, and then finally I will generate the XML file. So output of the report generation utility will be my XML file, which will then go into the validation utility. Validation utility will again work in a similar way. It will ask you to put the XML file into picture. You will take the XML file, do the schema validation. The schema validation will lead to some data quality errors. The data quality error file is generated. You will compare this data quality with your original XML, then try to rectify those errors. Same utility you will use for hashing the file. Once you hash the file, then do not open it once again. Hashing is for integrity check. So even a space introduced after hashing the file will lead to a rejection. Nearly 70% of rejection of files takes place because of failure of hash. So once you hash the file, please do not open it. Simply go to the Finget website and find it. Upload it. You go to the Finget website, go to the report module, put the location of your XML file here and upload. A batch ID will be generated. This is the batch ID which you should note it down for any communication with the FIU, that this batch has been uploaded. Now, if you do not have, now this is the status which will be communicated to you. When you upload the report, the status will be submitted. If you have submitted the file with digital signature, it will be validated subsequently. And if it is without digital signature, you send the REC, then it will be validated AC, which will convert it into validation once you submit your REC. What is REC? So when you submit the file, batch ID is generated. By clicking on this batch ID, a report upload confirmation form is generated. You have to sign it and scan it and send it to the FIU, just as a proof of valid submission done by you. If you have digital signature, you don't need to do anything. But if you don't have digital signature, then this REC form has to be signed. It is similar to the income tax return which we file. If you have digital signature, you simply upload the return and forget about it. If you don't have, then we have to take the printout, sign it and send it to the Bangalore office. Similar is the case here. If you have the digital signature, you upload it and forget it. But if you don't have, you have to take the printout, sign it, scan it and send it to us through mail. Once your REC form is received or your file with digital signature is processed, then the status will change to processed. And all this will be shown to you on the FinGate. Out of this batch, some of the files may get rejected. So it will be shown as this is the batch, this is the report which has been processed. And out of this, so many reports have been rejected, and this is the reason of rejection. That will be shown to you in the FinGate itself. For any kind of issues, you can always approach the help desk. And in case if you are not getting satisfactory response from the help desk, you can give a mail to me at this mail. Now, any questions on any of the issues?
Actually, to summarize the requirements, just to get a perspective for those who still not figured out, took me some time. What FIU does is takes information from lots of sources. Okay, then tries to process it and make sense out of it. And wherever there seems to be something wrong, it just sends it to income tax को भेज दो, ECB को भेज दो, CBI को भेज दो, IB को भेज दो, whatever they need to do. Obviously, the whole idea is to catch criminals, and to catch criminals, more information to the investigative agency makes it more feasible and better doable. And the stock broking community, the DB community, the capital market community, we are one of the sources of that information. So, not only it's a compliance requirement on us, it's also a basic duty as a citizen of this country to give information to the law enforcement agency to see that crime and criminals are stopped. And that is the request from FIU, that the information that we give should make sense. Like it becomes the whole exercise gets repeated. For example, not applicable address is a very good example. Because garbage is garbage out, right? So we need to get our data in order. So really requesting everyone to be a little more serious and responsible towards. It's not only the compliance that we have to do in any case, but also as a basic common sense, as any civilized person, something that we need to do properly. So, anybody brave enough for any questions, any queries? I see.
Last interaction with Deepika ma'am, she gave some insights, and I thought in the larger interest if we could, SEBI keeps coming out with the regulatory orders in terms of development, and over the last 2 years or 3 years, we've seen this whole long-term capital gain kind of unfold, right? And I think if you can throw some light in terms of if I as a broker have some clients who be debarred by SEBI under certain scripts for some long-term capital gain investments, is there anything that I need to do?
PMLA is all about reporting transactions which involve money which is arising from a predicate offence. Now, what is a predicate offence? As per the PMLA, there is a whole list of offences which is given in the schedule, which constitute predicate offences. That means that any money arising out of those illegitimate transactions constitutes money which is laundered in the system. Now, if you go and look at it, offences committed under the SEBI Act constitute an offence under that particular schedule. Now, technically, as Sagar says, if SEBI has passed an order under section of the SEBI Act, they are passing orders and they are restraining people. They always publish a whole list of bans where those who have been restrained. So, meaning thereby that they are a party to that alleged transaction under the SEBI Act. There are two things. One, it may so happen that that person can be a client of yours. He is a client. But when you see that transaction individually, you feel that there is nothing to be reported. But subsequently, when you see that person being found as guilty of something and SEBI restraining them temporarily till the time a final order is passed, the first and the best thing which you can do is file a reactive STR. That is what we call as a reactive STR. You can mention there is a client of mine. At the time when this transaction took place, I didn't think there was anything wrong with the transaction, but subsequently SEBI has come out with this order and they have restrained it. So I'm filing this STR. This is what we call as a reactive STR. You should file this. Another thing which you would have noticed, I wanted to comment at that time also, the percentage of STRs filed by the brokers per se as a law enforcement agency query. Now, what is a law enforcement agency query? You would be getting very frequently notices either from the police under the CRPC or from Income Tax Department or from any other agency, similar law enforcement agency regarding your client. Again, you may not find anything funny in your own sphere, but then that is a very good alert or an indicator to the fact that this person is under investigation. So again, in such cases, what is a law enforcement agency? Any query which is being raised by any law enforcement agency, meaning this person is under investigation. So you should file a reactive STR saying, person X is a client of mine. I got a notice from, say, Income Tax Department asking for his KYC and these details. This is the, you will give, like another thing, you will give your account information and the related account information, any loan associates, you will give us that information. Now when you file a STR, to you it is not important, but look what it does in my system. Like Chaitanya explained, like Sagar was also there. That information comes up in my system based on that PAN or based on that account number. I may find loan associates, I may find some other accounts. And then when you tell me that Income Tax Department or say SEBI or say police is investigated and I find some additional information, I send that information out to that particular department. So it helps them into investigation. This is what we call as reactive STRs, and this is what we also term as law investigation, law enforcement agency query. That is the category of alert under which this thing comes. So my advice to you is, even in cases where SEBI has passed restraining orders, you as an entity at that point of time did not find your client to be conducting any suspicious activity. But simply because SEBI has restrained them, you should file an STR on that. This will constitute as a good STR. This is giving us additional information on that particular client. And we may be able to actually find some other associated information for that particular client. What we normally do, you would notice as principal officers, if you log into Fingate, whenever SEBI passes orders, we take a whole lot of PANs and we post it on Fingate, saying if this person is a client, to all the reporting entities, please file STRs. I'm yet to see any broker filing STR under that. But I do get a lot of STRs from banks on that. They will say that this order was posted on Fingate, these details were posted on Fingate, and this person is a client of ours, and they will just simply give that information. It's just information which is being given. So we have started doing it very regularly. So as people who may possibly have accounts of those people, you should file STRs on this. It is required.
I guess guess the challenge here is probably not all of us are really logging in on a daily basis or even, like at regular intervals on the FIU website. Like in the last session you mentioned about the Sheena Bora case where you put up some PAN numbers and they asked for information. Now, what I really do not know is, are the principal officers really going religiously, if not I would say daily, but maybe twice in a week to see if there is something that the FIU has flashed. I think that is something very wrong.
We are trying to build in a system where if we put something, we will send an SMS to the thing, but that thing is taking a bit of time. But in the meantime, like we have said in our last session also, which we did in the PSC Broker Forum's office, our request is once in a while do log in. If nothing else, to also see the status of your reports. A lot of times what happens, like Chaitanya explained, there may be some inconsistency in your report because of which it has got rejected. You will never even know that your report is rejected if you do not periodically go back and look at the status of your reports. It may be a case where you filed a report, you have sent that scanned copy of RUC, but suppose that RUC has not been received. It is on Fingate. When you log in, then you will find all these status and all these alerts. So do make a habit of logging in at least once in a week, if not twice, at least once in a week, just to see if there are some important alerts there on the system, if there are some feedback based upon on your own reports. So please do that very often. It's very important.
Are there any more questions?
After my you get in touch with this person for your inability to register the other one, the default password.
Yeah, how to get the default passwords. We have been trying for last a long time. It's a problem.
You have some example, like you come across something and you don't know what to do, you are 50-50. Maybe this is the best time to get it out there. Somebody can just stand up and say, I had a customer, he was like this, and I'm not sure what to do.
Sir, in case of sub-broker, whether they have to also register with FIU India for registration purpose?
It's a very nice question. Technically, if you really want to ask me, as per PMLA, even a sub-broker is required to register. Whether you report or not is a different thing. We have parked that question with SEBI. We are asking for a clarification from them, but as of now, as per law, sub-brokers are required to register.
And sir, if particular sub-broker has already earlier submitted that document, they have implemented principal officer details to FIU. So now again they have to do this Finnac gateway, they have to do again second time registration.
Without getting this from registered, Syndicate will not recognize you.
Earlier, one of the sub-brokers has already intimated, say 4-5 years back.
Yes, this is what I am saying. You have to register your firm first of the Syndicate. Leave aside whether you have sent your physical details earlier or not, but unless and until you register your firm on Syndicate, the registration will not take into effect whether you have submitted physically or by mail or whatever you did. You get your firm registered, then your registration will take place on Syndicate, then only it will be a valid registration. Even for sub-broker, for any kind of firm.
So, sub-broker is an intermediary as a broker is an intermediary.
So sub-broker point of view. So each and every sub-broker has to register.
रजिस्ट्रेशन में ब्रोकर का जो भी कार्यक्रम करना है सब-broker को सबमिट करना है.
प्रोसेस सेम है दोनों में. आप चाहे ब्रोकर हो चाहे सब-broker हो. System will not differentiate whether you are a broker or a sub-broker.
So there is one more term, authorized person. So it's applicable to them also?
No. Thing is, all intermediaries register under, I think, section 12 itself. क्योंकि सब लोगों को बाकायदा सेवी का रजिस्ट्रेशन करना है. AP is exchange level. AP सब लोग AP is registered.
client has declared less income and the transaction value is in crores, do we still need to file an STR? And if we file an STR, should we stop doing business with that client?
That is a call which you need to take. Nowhere has it been written that if you are suspicious of a client that you need to shut down business with that client. Report that client. And by and large, the experience has been, like Chaitanya pointed out, Azim Premji's case, an STR was filed for an investment of, it was not 10 lakh, it was an investment of 20 lakh. There is this indicator somewhere where the amount of investment is, I think, 4 or 5 times more than the outer bracket. So I think the income of 1 to 5 lakh was taken in this case, so 20 lakh they filed an STR. 20 lakh or 25 lakh they filed an STR. So it is not necessary that whatever has been taken has to be taken into account. For everybody knows who Azim Premji is. So, I mean, anybody would expect that if it is Azim Premji's case, then nobody is going to file an STR for a disproportionate income kind of a case. Similarly, for your client, if the income is very low and he is doing into work, investing into crores, then on the face of it, prima facie, yes, STR बनता है because no economic rationale is there, or no bona fide purpose can also come in that. But you really need to go and look into and get some very quiet investigation done to see, get some public database information, probably send somebody to visit his home and see what kind of a house he lives in, and all those kind of things do need to be looked into before you file an STR. But prima facie, yes, you should file an STR.
Right then. Another question? Thank you very much, audience. Thank you, Chaturji and Sagar.
Audience, just 1 minute. We will take this opportunity to thank the FIU people for gracing this occasion, and we will give a token of appreciation for FIU speakers and also for Mr. Sagar Khanna, who have been supporting us. So I would request Mr. Uttam Babri to give this moment to Shri Deepika. I request our Government Board member Mr. Harin Mehta to come and please give a moment to Mr. Chaitanya. Lastly, we would really like to thank Shri Sagar Khanna, and I would request Harin sir to please give him also a memento from forum side. He has always been supporting all our seminars. Yes, sir. Thank you very much.